Joining me now is 90 Day Fiancé star Veronica Rodriguez. Veronica lives right here in the Queen City. Veronica, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really appreciate you stopping by Rising. I think fans are probably pretty excited to hear from you. I know I am. My wife and I watch the show religiously. I hate
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Not to hate to admit that, but we enjoy the drama, let's say that. Yeah, you know, and going back to your first appearance with Tim Malcolm on Tim's first season, you were there, and then now you fast forward, you just did The Single Life, you're on Pillow Talk. What's this experience been like?
It's been wild. I think when Tim first asked me to meet with the producer and have like that interview, I was like, we were fans of the show. I was like, they're never going to cast you in this. Like, this is, but I'll do it. I'm a very yes person, like, have the experiences. I'd rather regret having done something than that missed opportunity. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, we'll do this and we'll do this. And something a lot of people don't know, when I was on Tim's first season, I didn't get paid even an appearance fee.
Wow.
So I hosted him like the going away party. I bought all the snacks, I bought all the drinks. It actually cost me money to be on that first season. And then everyone was like, she's conniving, she's in love with him still, she knows what she's doing, she's, you know, trying to sabotage him.
It's such a great dynamic though, because I remember watching that season too, and I remember you giving him the ring and all of these things, and I'm like, man, how are they still friends through all this?
I think that's one of the things I love the most about being on Pillow Talk is that people have finally gotten that opportunity to get to see us. It's a weird relationship. We both acknowledge that, but it works. But it takes a while for people to get, because it's so uncommon, that for people to just accept that, like, no one's trying to sleep with anyone, no one's trying to get back with anyone, no one's trying to manipulate anyone. It's just like, no, we're friends, we're co-parents, and sometimes we're closer and sometimes we're not, you know what I mean? I called him twice last night and he still hasn't called me back. So Tim, when you see this, give me a call.
I hate to, yeah, sorry Tim, I didn't think that was gonna happen there. So I didn't mean to hang you out to dry. But yeah, and that dynamic, it's fascinating because I know he mentioned that obviously, and everyone knows you guys met when you were in your 20s, and you approached him first? Is that how it goes?
Tim's a very shy person. So yeah, if I had not made the first move, but Tim always says he was with his best friend at the time who was like this like gym guy and like super attractive. Tim says he looks like an Abercrombie, and the guy is very attractive, but he's like, so no one clearly was going to be interested in me, and I don't know, I was like, I was.
Yeah.
So yes, I approached Tim first and kind of kept approaching him because, you know, we were talking and then he was like, I'm gonna go to this other bar. And I was like, but no. And so I was trying to get my girlfriends and I was like, come on, we've gotta go over there. And they were like, no, it's fine. And somehow at the end of the night, we ran into each other again.
It's
and I was
meant
like,
to be.
It's fate, exactly.
Yeah, and how hard has it been dealing with fans or people sliding into your DMs and all of the stuff that does, you know, appear on the internet, bad-mouthing you, bad-mouthing Tim, just a TV show, and you guys are just living your lives.
Yeah, I will say the internet is actually, it's a lot easier than you think. You have to train yourself. So like rule number 1, never Google yourself. Yeah. Never Google yourself. Because
the first question will pop up like, yeah, that's...
Whatever Google is going to auto-populate of, you know, Veronica Rodriguez 90 Day, and then whatever, they're horrifying, the questions that Google auto-populates. But you know, on social media, the way I see it, it's like, this is my digital house. So people are like, well, you put yourself on a TV show, we have the right to say whatever we want about you. And to your point, I'm like, no, I'm on a TV show to entertain you, and this is my digital house, and you wouldn't come in, I wouldn't invite you into my actual house and have you say, you're ugly, you're this, you know, all these negative opinions. I would say, you're not welcome here. This is my home, this is my safe space, so you're not gonna do that to me online. So I have gotten very good at blocking and deleting. I welcome, you know, conversation. So I want people to have a difference of opinions, right? And debate certain things, but respectfully. Please always just keep it respectful.
Right.
And I will say, people who run into me in public, like, they're always very polite. Maybe, I guess, because, you know, maybe the haters and the trolls, they'll just like stay away if they see you.
They'll just write a blog about you.
Exactly.
What has the reception been here in Charlotte, I guess? You know, going around town, people, I mean, millions of people watch the show. Yeah. Charlotte has been on the map now with different restaurants and places you've gone. Tim's gone, obviously. What's the reception been like for you here?
I think most Charlotteans I talk to are so excited that they're like, oh my God, it's so cool to watch our city on TV and watch the show and have the representation there. So that's been nice. I don't get recognized as often as Tim does. And I think sometimes when I do, like, I'll have people DM me and they're like, I saw you at such and I'm like, oh, you should have said hi. And they're like, well, I didn't want to bother you. You were with someone, you were with your family, you were with your friends. And so I feel like, again, good, respectful Southern folk.
It's polite.
Yeah.
And most places would be all over you with your phone in the hand and everything.
Exactly.
And talk about the co-parenting dynamic with Tim. I know that he's always been a staple in your daughter's life. And what's that been like to have him there with your daughter?
I mean, it's been amazing for her. I think one common misconception is that Tim and I don't necessarily at this point co-parent every day, right? She's 16. But if there is anything super exciting or anything super catastrophic, Tim is there in a heartbeat. I mean, Chloe could have gotten into a fight with a friend, right? That is catastrophic to a teenager, but to an adult, not so much. If she calls Tim, he'll drive the 30 minutes over to the house and be like, okay, what do we need to talk? Do I need to talk to this girl? Do I need to talk to her parents?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
and
fantastic.
So, you know, it's like I'm the advice parent. He's like the action parent. He's like, how do we? What steps need to happen?
So you're a good cop, and he's more bad cop.
Sometimes.
Sometimes I see, and that's always a fine line to walk. That's for
Yeah.
sure. And being in Charlotte, and what's the dating scene like?
Oh my
For
gosh.
me, I remember when I was single living here, it was awful. It was an awful experience.
The dating scene here, I think, is especially awful for someone in my age range, because I will say, so Tim and I split up when I was actually about to turn 30, so I was like 29. It was very different then, and I don't know, clearly that was 7 or 8 years ago. So I don't know if it's because it was 7 or 8 years ago, or if it was just being in that age demographic that there's more single people. Because the single people in the 37 plus age range, which is typically my dating age range, right? Like 38 to 45 maybe. It's difficult. It's tough. It's, you know, you often figure out why people are single. So I am kind of taking a break from the apps right now.
Was that hard to do? Was that hard to get off those kind of like the dating apps and that world of seeking date, or just having people come and hey, do you want to go have a drink? Do you want to go out to dinner and eat, stuff like that? And you just kind of want to take time for yourself.
No, and I will say, I think one of the hardest part of being on the apps and being on the show is, especially because our target demographic is mostly women or men who are married or in relationships. So single men don't often recognize me, right? So then I have to try to meet them, but you don't want to tell them right away that you're on this TV show. But when do you tell them? Because you don't want to get too far down the road and then drop this kind of bomb on them that might be it. And it has been, a deal breaker for quite a few people, whether because professionally or maybe they come from very traditional families. Like one guy I was dating last year was just came from a very traditional Persian family, and he was like, there's no way my family would ever be okay with me dating somebody who's on reality TV.
Wow,
and it was but we had already gone on several dates. I really liked the guy, and it was like, womp womp.
Well, it's okay. There are plenty of fish in the sea, right?
There are, and that's that's the plan now. Is I'm gonna meet someone organically, kind of out in the world. I did try to hit on a guy at yoga the other day, and I have not seen him back at that class in 3 weeks. I'm pretty sure he's hiding from me now.
So how does one do this, Veronica? Okay, was it, especially in a yoga class, it's so quiet in there. Was it after
the class,
picking up your mat?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was like, so is this a class? And he was like, yeah, I come to this class all the time. And I was like, we were talking about the teacher, and I was like, this teacher's so great. And, it's great to have, a variety of people in this class, and and it didn't work. And I was like, I'm gonna go, because there's a smoothie bar I was like, I'm gonna go grab a smoothie. And he was like, have fun with that. And I was like,
wow.
And he was like, I'll see you around. And I was like, okay.
Shot down, man. If only he knew. If only he knew.
So.
Oh, wow. Well, so you did the single life here, and it showcased a lot of places, a lot of restaurants here in Charlotte.
Yes.
What was that experience like from being, kind of like the side type kick to Tim's story, and then having your own story, and now the cameras are on you 24/7?
So the filming part of it actually was not so bad, right? Because even when I was filming, or when Tim was filming his season, even not when he was in Colombia, but when he was here, there's a lot of scenes that I was there, right? We're best friends, so we were hanging out, and I might not be on camera, but he's filming and I'm kind of hanging out with him. So I was used to it, and I had already done pillow talk so much.
Right.
But the attention of being kind of the main character is something I was not quite prepared for. People micro analyzing every little thing you do, and it was just like, mind blowing. So what I will say again with that is, all things like this too shall pass. Actually, it's the mantra on my bracelet.
Oh, well, nice. Is this one of the ones that stays on your wrist?
No, you can pull it off.
Bracelets or?
Yeah,
okay.
No, this is just, but it says this too shall pass, and it's a good, just daily reminder of,
Yeah, definitely.
it might be hard right now.
Right.
It might be better next week. And if it's great right now, it might be sucky next week. So like whether good or bad.
Was it
all
tough
things are
to
transient.
have that and share that experience of dating? I forget the gentleman's name that you dated, Justin, on the show. Because sometimes you can kind of tell he was kind of uncomfortable.
Yes.
How hard is that to, like, hey, we like each other, but this is also part of what's my life too? Yeah,
it was very difficult because, again, I think for myself, I'm a little more used to it. I've been doing it for 3 or 4 years. For someone new, and then also just like the pressure on a relationship, right, of being under that microscope, a new relationship, things that appear, like, oh, you guys are having so much fun. Like when we did that zip lining, it was actually freezing.
It looked like it was cold because it looked like it was shot in the fall. So I'm like, oh, they have to be freezing there.
It was so freaking cold. At one point, they were asking me questions, and the camera guy took off his jacket and wrapped it around and I had pants on, but wrapped it around my legs because I was shaking, and he's like, I cannot get this shot right now. But I was like, it's so cold. It was like 20 degrees. Right. And so, and for some people, it brings you together, right? Because you have that shared experience that has bonded you.
Right.
It's clearly not the case for Justin and I. But I think we ended on mostly good terms. Or I shouldn't say we ended, but we got to a point, especially after the show aired.
Right.
I hadn't talked to him, and then someone else had actually suggested, like, you should probably check in on him. So I did send him a text message, and I was like, now that the show's airing, like, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah.
And I think more or less he was okay. At first, he was actually really excited, and then as the season went on, he was like, oh, the internet doesn't like.
It probably gets paranoid.
Yeah.
It would make anyone kind of uncomfortable.
And I had to keep reminding him, don't Google yourself. What did I tell you? Rule number 1, never Google yourself.
Did he end up going to Florida?
So from what I understand, he has not gone to Florida. Funny enough, I actually talked to his ex. The ex, the one that he was supposed to be moving to Florida. And she was like, look, that was the plan, but she was like, I told him that if I met someone, like, we would address it then and stay.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's clearly not what he said to me. So it was very interesting, and
Well, I do love the fact though that you kind of, you didn't waste your time either though, because you kind of, like, you can tell you kind of hit you're like, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm gonna move on.
There's a meme that I love, and it says something to the effect of like, dating after 30, be like, we're doing this or not, because I've got stuff to do. And I
got a list of stuff. I got priorities I got to take. Yes or no? Okay.
Exactly. And I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's like, I've been married, I've been divorced, I have a child. It's like, I'm not in a rush to do any of those things, but if it's not leading somewhere, like, I got stuff to do. I got stuff to do.
You have a busy life. You're a businesswoman. You have a 16-year-old daughter. I can only imagine.
Avoid all the streets in South Charlotte for the next 18 months or so, because they're very dangerous right now.
They are. There's always construction here anyway.
But now there's a wild Chloe on the loose.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see. Yeah. Oh my gosh. My wife and I, we have a 3-month-old now, and she's an angel now, but the war stories you've been telling me, I'm like, oh my gosh,
there's a lot of
sweet
that happens between then and the horror stories.
Okay.
Don't worry, there's a lot of.
Hopefully they outweigh.
They will. They will. They truly will.
Okay, that's good to hear.
There's a lot of I love you, Dad.
Well,
you be my Valentine and all
see
that.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll take that. But I won't take the missing curfew and all the other stuff that comes along with that. But I'm sure she'll butter me up. But speaking of, I guess, the future, you guys have Pillow Talk coming up, and you're just rolling with that.
We have Pillow Talk coming up. We're rolling with that.